34 American sailors killed, 171 wounded, over 800 armor-piercing holes in the hull. And when the survivors were finally rescued, according to their own testimony, the United States government gave them a single order: do not talk about what happened. No extended national mourning, no press conference from the White House. The official naval investigation was completed and classified in under 1 week. The men who lived through that afternoon carried the weight of that order for decades. Some carried it to their graves. This is the story of the USS Liberty, June 8, 1967, and it remains one of the most controversial and under-examined military incidents in modern American history. The USS Liberty was a United States Navy signals intelligence vessel. In the summer of 1967, during the Six-Day War between Israel and its Arab neighbors, the Liberty was operating in international waters approximately 25 miles off the Sinai Peninsula. The ship was clearly marked. A large American flag flew from its mast. Its hull identification was visible. It had been in the same general position for several hours. At approximately 2 p.m. local time, Israeli military aircraft began circling the vessel. Then the attack began. Aircraft made repeated passes, firing rockets and cannon rounds across the Liberty's deck. The crew fought to control fires and reach their wounded. When the air assault paused, Israeli torpedo boats arrived. They fired 5 torpedoes at the ship. One struck amidships, tearing a 40-foot hole below the waterline. The ship began to list. The crew transmitted distress signals immediately. U.S. aircraft were scrambled from nearby carriers in response. Those aircraft were recalled before they reached the Liberty. The assault lasted approximately 2 hours before it ended. By the time it was over, 34 Americans were dead, and the ship was barely afloat. The official explanation offered by Israel was mistaken identity. The Liberty had been confused for an Egyptian vessel operating in the area. The United States government accepted that explanation within days, and this remains the official position today. Many of the Liberty's surviving crew members disputed that finding. They have maintained that dispute consistently and on the public record for more than 50 years.
James Ennes was a junior officer aboard the USS Liberty that afternoon. After the attack, he spent years documenting the incident, interviewing fellow survivors, filing Freedom of Information requests, and gathering available evidence. In 1979, he published a book called Assault on the Liberty. In it, he described a ship that he and fellow crew members believed was clearly identifiable, a flag that was visible, an attack that, in the account of those on deck, did not feel consistent with confusion. He was not presenting theory. He was a United States Navy officer giving his account of what he witnessed. His book has never been formally responded to or rebutted by the United States government. Whether his account reflects the complete picture or only part of it is a question the historical record has not fully resolved.
In 2003, 36 years after the attack, the National Security Agency declassified a collection of documents related to the USS Liberty incident. Among what those documents revealed, NSA signals intercepts from that afternoon indicated that Israeli aircraft had been tracking the Liberty for several hours before the assault began. The declassified records also confirmed that American intelligence had failed to relay updated position information to the Liberty in time, a breakdown with direct and serious consequences. In 2002, an independent commission examined the available evidence and published its conclusions. It was led by Admiral Thomas Moorer, a former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the highest military position in the United States. Admiral Moorer's commission concluded that the attack on the USS Liberty could not, in their assessment, reasonably be characterized as a case of mistaken identity. His findings were documented and made publicly available.
They received very limited coverage in mainstream American media at the time. The official position of the United States government did not change in response to the Commission's conclusions and remains unchanged today. Two conclusions exist. Both are on the public record. The historical debate between them has never been formally resolved.
The surviving crew of the USS Liberty formed a Veterans Association. Over the following decades, they submitted formal requests to multiple members of Congress for a full independent investigation into the attack. Each request was declined or went unanswered. As of this recording, no full congressional investigation into the USS Liberty attack has ever been opened. An attack that killed 34 American servicemen in international waters, assessed by a former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff as not being an accident in his independent judgment, and never examined by a full congressional proceeding. That gap between the scale of the event and the level of official examination it received is the central question this episode raises. Whether the attack on the USS Liberty was a case of mistaken identity, as the official position holds, or something else, as a significant number of survivors and investigators have argued, is a question this series does not claim to resolve definitively. What this series does examine is the pattern surrounding how the incident was handled. An event occurs, an investigation is opened and closed with unusual speed. Findings are classified, survivors report being pressured towards silence. The level of public examination does not match the scale of the event. We documented the same pattern with Operation Paperclip, where inconvenient records were removed rather than examined. We documented it with the Church Committee, where findings were thorough and accountability was still largely absent. The pattern is not unique to any single incident. It is institutional behavior, the tendency of large organizations to manage difficult questions rather than answer them fully. One Liberty survivor gave an interview years after the attack. He said the hardest part was not that afternoon on the water. The hardest part was coming home and being told, in effect, that the most important day of his life was not something his country needed to look at too closely. He spent years trying to understand how that was possible. He said he never found a satisfying answer. 34 men died on June 8, 1967. Their families deserved a thorough, independent accounting of what happened. What the historical record shows is a rapid official conclusion, a classified investigation, and decades of unanswered requests from the men who were actually there. Whether the official account is complete or whether the questions raised by survivors and investigators like Admiral Moorer deserve a fuller examination is a judgment each viewer must make based on the documented record. What is not in dispute is this: the men of the USS Liberty served their country, and the questions they have asked for more than 50 years have never received the full hearing they deserved. In our next episode, we follow the same pattern of buried evidence into an industry that affects every single person watching this. Your doctor, your prescriptions, your health decisions, the research that disappeared, the scientists who were silenced, and the financial machinery that turned your well-being into its most profitable product. Big Pharma's hidden history. Next episode.